I'm giving away this championship belt once I hit 100,000 subscribers, so go ahead and click subscribe today. WWE Fastlane is just a few hours away, and guys, we have some really big news that I really want to discuss, but before we get to the WWE stuff, let's talk about AEW. Toni Storm, it looks like AEW could be cooking up a new faction, and if you guys don't follow me on social media, or if you're not in my Discord, you may not know this, but I am absolutely in love with everything they are doing with Toni Storm. Timeless Toni Storm is probably one of my favorite gimmicks in pro wrestling today. Dave Meltzer was talking about this in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and he says that Mariah May is expected in AEW. We've talked about that, but now he says there was a lot of talk that she would be going to Seattle for Wrestle Dream, but she actually flew back home to the UK. She is expected in AEW, possibly being part of a group with Toni Storm. If AEW is having discussions with a new group with Toni Storm and Mariah May, I think that could be really cool. I think it could be really beneficial. And I think there could even be some storylines there with the Outcast, because now the Outcast is pretty much freaking broken. And there's just a lot of synergies there, a lot of possibilities there that is cool. Mariah May had some really cool stuff that she did in Stardom, but you got to remember, she's only been in the industry for a few years, so now this is a great situation where she could work alongside Toni Storm, actually learn from Toni Storm. And as long as they nail the character stuff down, I think it's going to be really awesome. I really love the timeless Toni Storm gimmick. It's something that I feel like WWE could have done when she was in WWE, but they dropped the ball with her. You know, she had a very good run in NXT UK. She was fantastic in NXT UK. When she made it to the main roster, WWE just didn't do anything with her. And at that time, it was different management, different creative, and I get that like things might be different now. But the reality is, she's in AEW. She's absolutely killing it in AEW. She has my favorite gimmick in pro wrestling right now. The presentation is great. You bring an up-and-comer like Mariah May, put her with Toni Storm, it could be some very, very good content. And the reality is, that's what AEW needs, right? AEW needs to have the type of content that keep people hooked and invested. And part of that is by associating up-and-comers with veterans. And they do a really good job with that, right? Like Edge is now working a program with Christian, but like Nick Wayne is involved. You know, Darby Allin obviously getting the rub from Sting. Just scenarios like that is really great. You see Billy Gunn with the Acclaimed. I love how AEW does that, and more specifically, when you're trying to build stars, especially ones that may not be known in America, you put them with the veterans, the fans will eventually catch on. Not every fan of AEW watches Stardom, but the reality is if you put her with somebody who is really respected and really talented and has something that's working, a lot of people will automatically cling on to it, and I think it's a really smart strategy. It's something I look forward to, and I can't wait to see happen. Guys, I want to turn our attention to Will Ospreay. I didn't think I'd ever have to talk about this. I never really believed that Will Ospreay could ever potentially join WWE, and obviously nothing is for certain, but there was a Q&A with Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, and basically Sean Ross was asked if Will Ospreay is signing with AEW and if it's 100% guarantee. And basically, Sean said what we all pretty much know. He says that it's reasonable to believe that Will Ospreay is going to AEW, but he also may have backed off the idea that he will never sign with WWE. He says that's where I think he'll go. But after speaking to those close to him, as well as him, that his mentality changed a lot from, I don't want to go to WWE and etc. I think he now realizes that this is his big contract. And with his style, and he is in his early 30s, he knows this is his big contract. So there's nothing for certain that guarantees that Will Ospreay will join WWE, but that is a possibility. And it's interesting because right now Will Ospreay is not contracted to AEW, but he remains a very big part of AEW. And I just kind of feel like it's a no-brainer for Will Ospreay to join AEW. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of people will sit here and try to convince everyone else that Will Ospreay is just a good wrestler and that is it. But I think Will Ospreay could be a fantastic wrestler as well as a fantastic character in WWE as well. I think he fits AEW. I think he is doing great in AEW. But to sit here and say Will Ospreay can't make it in the WWE, I think that's bullshit. And I don't agree with that sentiment because I think he can actually succeed very well in WWE. I know people look at him as just a good wrestler. I think he is much more than that. I also think that's a big part of the reason why I love what they're doing with him and Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita and Sammy Guevara. There is something there that is very unique, and I do believe it could also be done in WWE. Now, with that being said, if Will Ospreay goes to WWE, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I do think it would be a pretty big blow to AEW because most of the audience does consider him an AEW wrestler. At the end of the day, AEW is all of these fast-paced, high maneuvers, high-intensity matches, and I think there is some truth to that. You know, he is in his early 30s. If you want to have a long-lasting career, and obviously you want to be in good health for many years after wrestling, WWE style is a lot lighter on your body. Not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying it's a lot lighter on your body, and it could make a lot of sense for people to go to WWE. I do believe that Will Ospreay will sign with AEW, but there is always that chance he could join WWE, and if he does, there's nothing wrong with that. And it will be interesting to see if WWE makes a massive offer, because right now WWE is trying to sign people that are notable names and bring them into the company. And look, I just love pro wrestling in general. I love storytelling. If you're telling me Will Ospreay and Seth Rollins cannot have an incredible program, if you're telling me Will Ospreay and Roman Reigns can't have an incredible program, I think your tribalism is kicking in, because I think those are massive programs. No different than Kenny and Ospreay and Bryan Danielson, or Ospreay and Edge. Like, there's so many great storylines that can happen in both companies. He's going to be a good signing regardless of where he goes. And this brings us to our final story of today's video, guys. Odyssey Jones could potentially be joining the Lashley Street Profits faction. Fightful reported today that there has been a discussion about Odyssey Jones joining this new group. And Odyssey Jones was drafted to WWE Raw. They've never mentioned him again. And aside from working dark matches or anything like that, main event or dark matches, they haven't had plans for him. And it was a very premature call-up to the main roster. But this is a huge debut, and it could all very much go right, because we have Carlito potentially returning tonight at Fastlane. You got Santos and Ray, and then Bobby and the Street Profits. You want to have one team go over the other without making somebody look weak. Odyssey Jones coming in and being the big man body, the big muscle for this group, it would be absolutely insane. And it just like what I was saying earlier about AEW, you put these young up-and-comers with veterans, they will learn. And I think that would be a very good situation for Odyssey Jones before he propels himself. This guy has a lot of long-term potential in the WWE. And I know a lot of people are going to compare him to Mark Henry. But we're hearing those comparisons. We're seeing these things that are being said about him. He's not the most experienced wrestler. But if you put him with the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, he gets to be on TV. People will start getting familiar with him. He'll learn from the very best. And on top of that, being a big man, it's not like he has to go in there and do a whole bunch of moonsaults and Canadian destroyers. He just has to do the dirty work for the group, and I think that could be really special. I'm so excited for Fastlane, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Don't forget, I'm giving away this championship once I hit 100K.